Welcome to another edition of Through My Lens. I'm your host, Karen Jackson. And Through My Lens is a leadership podcast where we sit down and talk about and discover winning strategies for purposeful and powerful living. And today we have two special guests on the podcast today, and that is Minister Daria Dillard Stone. She is the founder of Sharing Ministries, and we have visiting with us for the first time, but definitely not the last, Kristal Corbitt, and she is the founder of Kimmy Cares. And so I am so excited to sit down with both of these ladies to talk about a subject that I know that they know all too well. And that is, our title is Healing from the Inside Out. And I'll just start this segment by saying that the reason why I wanted to do this series is because I've experienced some great loss in this last year from my mentor, a lady in my church who was just phenomenal with the young people, has always been a sister friend to me. And then towards the end of the year, I had a mentor pass away, Barbara Van Zant. And then my brother and my sister passed away. And so I really found myself in some really dark places over the last year. And so, but God kept saying to me, what am I supposed to be learning from this situation? And it got me to exploring. And so, whether it was reading scriptures and praying and meditating and asking God, what did I need to do next? And what did I need to do, actually, quite frankly, to keep myself from losing it? And slowly but surely, He has been giving me the answer. And so and as I've been going through this process, one of the things that I realize is in talking to people and sharing, being transparent when people say, Karen, how you doing? I'm not okay.
Yeah.
I'm not okay. And the more that I said that, what I started to see is that there were more people silently hurting, grieving for various reasons, that were suffering silently, that weren't talking about it for various reasons. And and these were people I had been talking to. And so it said to me that how many other people are suffering that they're not talking to someone. And I realized that I needed to do what I could to try to create that conversation, because there were people who I had been talking to for 6, 8 months, right? Had no idea that they were suffering. But I guess when I started to share my suffering, they felt
I know.
comfortable opening up and telling me. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's how this series was birthed. And I don't believe God makes any mistakes. And shortly after that, I ran into um, Reverend Mosley, and she wrote a book. And what was it about? Grief and loss. And so we had talked about doing some special segments, and so it was already in the making before all of this happened. And so we have been doing some series, but I wanted to take an opportunity and talk to some women too, who can talk firsthand knowledge. I think we all have experienced that. Reverend Mosley talks about it very eloquently in her book, and but we all have. And so that's what I wanted this conversation to be about. When I looked at some of the most recent statistics, it said that at least 30% of Americans this year has lost someone. And when you think about that, that means everybody more than likely has lost someone,
been touched by death,
or has been touched by some form of grief or loss. So I want to take the opportunity to introduce you guys, but I want to talk about that because I know that you guys know firsthand. So, Mama Daria, we're going to start with you. Tell us who you are and tell us, I know that your whole ministry and about Sharing Ministries was birthed from a grief and loss situation. Talk to us a little bit about that.
My grief started when my husband, Todd Stone, died on August the 8th of 2007. And although I had been through death before, I had never lost a husband. And he was truly my Boaz. We were married 17 years, 8 months, and 7 days. And on his deathbed, Todd told me, he said, "Baby, don't you die with me." He said, "You need to go get help." He said, "And stop fighting your ministry, write the book, and remember, you don't have to have people validate you. Stop waiting for people to validate you. God has already done that through his son, Jesus." And I got angry with Todd and right there in hospice at the VA. And I hit the bed and I told him, "I don't want to hear that mess." And I probably didn't say mess, but because I couldn't understand, you're telling me my life's going to be better and I'm supposed to jump up for joy? Oh, I was in a bad place. But because I listened to Todd. Todd never broke a promise to me. He took care of me and my girls, and his first grandbaby ever, Deja. When Deja was born, Billy got pregnant at 15, my youngest daughter. And oh my gosh, that man showed me what it means to be a Samson. He was a Samson. I was a basket case. And he told me, he said, I remember what we went through, so you're going to need help when I draw my last breath. I didn't know that. Anyway, he was right, so I went to grief counseling out at Hospice on Wilmington. And for people out there listening, you do not have to have a loved one die at that facility for you to be a part of their program, their grief and counseling program, Pathways, I believe it's called. So once I started doing Pathways, God spoke to me in 2008 and said, start a website so you can talk about the grief. And I didn't want to do that. And you know what? If you ever want to know if God's talking to you, it's always going to be something you don't want to do. You know that's him. Am I right or wrong?
That's right.
And I knew without a doubt, it was just as plain as you hear my voice. You need to start a website to get some of that pain out of you. And that's 2008, then 2009, I can't sleep. I wake up and I started writing. I finally talked to Dan Baird. Dan and Marcella Baird are very good friends of mine. And Dan is an extraordinary, talented, gifted web designer. So I go to him because he's an expert. I'm like, I told him what happened. I went to the bathroom one night in the dark. God said, start a website and get the grief out. And he asked me, he said, what took you so long? So people see things in you you don't see in yourself. That's why it's so important for us to open up when we're hurting. Yes. You might get one chance to be in somebody's space, and they're going to remember, just like me and Kristal sitting here, didn't know each other, we're going to be here, but we've got great history together. And it could be the other way around. Yes. It could be, you don't forget when people do you wrong, but you sure don't forget when they do you right. I remember her like my bonus daughter. I got a lot of them, but she was probably one of the first ones back in the day because she needed encouragement. And even though I was hurting because my teen daughter had got pregnant, I was not bitter. God was making me better. So I started Sharing Ministries, and basically I started talking about grief. That's all I talked about. I went to women workshops. I did seminars. I had on prayer calls, and I would go to private homes and talk about grief. And then on the website, I would tell Dan, put this on the website, put this on the website. Didn't know what I was doing. He did it and made it look nice. And about 4 or 5 years into Sharing Ministries, Dan said, do you realize you're not talking about grief anymore? You're talking about teen pregnancy, divorce, suicide, how to lose weight, how to gain weight, how to stop smoking. Somehow, all I had to do was put one foot in front of the other, and I got out of the grief, but I had to go through that. And that's what I think a lot of us don't want to do, is go through it. No pill, no drink, no woman, no man. That ain't no sex good enough. There's no money that you can buy enough stuff. When you hurting, all of that is a Band-Aid. You want to get to the real heart of the matter. And me going to grief counseling, me listening to Todd, my children were phenomenal in watching me, and they didn't know their mother. They said, especially my youngest daughter Billy, and I remember telling them this is where the pivot point was, and I can tell you clearly. I told my daughters I was 57 when Todd died, and I knew in 3 years was a big milestone, 60. I sat down and told them a year after Todd, I'm like, 2 years, do not plan a big party. I cannot do that. I mean it, y'all. Please don't. They said, okay, all right, Mama, we won't. So on my actual birthday in 2011, we had an all-day spa, manicure, pedicure, massage, lunch, dinner, wine, dancing, and they me and my mom and my girls. It was just me and my mom and my girls. Me and my mom had been estranged, and I had never done anything like that with Mom, and they knew that. So that in itself was a wonderful way for me to have my 60th. The next weekend is when they gave me a surprise birthday party, and it was slick. Oh, man, it was slick because my girlfriend who would have normally been there, Julia, she was on an assignment from them to get me out the house on the 12th. Delish hadn't even named itself Delish yet, but because they were disobedient, because they said they saw me existing and not living, I thought I was doing good. I'm going to grief counseling. They said, we have to do something. Mama's going to celebrate. So they would, for a whole year, Billy would emails. I sent out job posting. I sent out free tickets. I sent out this, that. Billy said she would take those emails and take my name off and then send another group next and said, if you're my mom's friend, we're having a party next year. If you're not, you're just a co-worker. Please disregard this. Da-da-da-da. Okay, long story short, Julia comes to get me on the 12th. She talks me into going to some art exhibit. And so we over at Sidebar. Was that what it's called back in the day? Oregon District, that look? Yeah. And while we're there, she keeps antsy on her phone, and I said, baby, I ain't trying to be funny. I said, but you ain't giving me your undivided attention. It's my birthday. You're right. I'm real like that. I need you done picked up the phone. This is her. My girlfriend's trying to do perm for the first time, and she needs to know where to get the product. So every time I said something, she was right on it. So we got to go, and we get down to the downtown and to going into the list. She said, just park right here on the street. I said, no, I ain't going to park on the street. I'm going to the driveway in the parking lot. She said, you don't have to park. I said, why all of a sudden you in a hurry? Anyway, I go ahead and park in the parking lot. We pay. I'm walking to the door, and I said, Julia, I said, it's a bunch of people look like they looking at the door. She said, no, it's artwork in the ceiling, and they have to, every line was just pop, pop. Oh, I will forever remember that. So she gave me no reason to doubt her. I opened that door, and they said, happy birthday. And they said I fainted. They had 3 photographers, and they took pictures of me that evening that I have now and I look at. And that was the first time that I laughed again. It was the first time that I looked at life. I felt like I could live without Todd. And I had to admit that I felt I couldn't, okay? Let me just say that. Don't care how saved, sanctified, set apart, scriptured up, all down, I was just in a really bad place, and I thank God for that party. Amen. That's one party I thank God for. And I'll tell you more what came out of that grief. Sharing Ministries is now a kingdom-driven marketplace ministry. I've co-written 3 books, and just finished the STAR Self-Development Program, where you go at your own pace and get to the core of what's holding you up from being the best you can be. All this out of grief. I'm telling you, but you got to go through it. And I know Kristal's got a story too, but we want to get to the other side quickly, and it's not going to happen. It's just not. God is he's like a crock pot. He's a slow cooker. But when he gets done with you, you done. You can stick a fork in it. So, and that's what I do. I share my story. And my girls used to tell me, they would get embarrassed. Mom, don't you think people going to think less of you because you told them you had a baby out of wedlock and you used to do that and that? I said, that's on them.
Yeah.
I know who I am now. I done messed around and found out I'm a child of God, and I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, and I believe that. Yeah, I'm good now.
Yeah.
They can think whatever they want. I'm good now.
Mm-hmm.
So but you got to go through to get to the other side.
So, Kristal, I wanted to ask you, Mama Daria mentioned about grief and going through counseling. Was that something that you felt that you needed to do through your process?
I actually use Facebook for my therapy.
All right.
I use Facebook because I was one who was more transparent, and I was open. I'm hurting. Y'all help me, because I wasn't the only one that was hurting, because Kemi, that whole thing opened up because Facebook Live was new. That whole thing opened up for everybody. So it was like Kemi became everybody's baby. So many people was rooting and vying for this baby to live, and when she didn't, so we all did it together. And I kept the community, help me understand, because I'm going through this and I don't understand. So when I would see or a mother who has gone through it, and they like, I buried my son 20 years ago, or I saw somebody, or I buried my child, umpteen years ago, that gave me hope. Like, okay, wait a minute. She said 20 years ago, she's still here. This woman still laughs. I was like Facebook stalking people, like, I want to see, can she still smile? Can she, people were getting married and everything. I'm like, how's she doing this without one of her babies? Because I didn't think that I could make it without her. But God will show you that you can, because it wasn't so much as me needing her as much as I needed him. And so that's where I found him. In her death. And so I use Facebook, I use that to heal, you know what I'm saying, and just be open with people, and as a Mother Stone said, it's okay to not be okay. Just say you're not okay, because we have learned to mask pain and make it look really, really good with smiles and makeup, and we get on there with show off. I just got married. I got married 3 weeks after my mother took her last breath. My mom. I was in this woman for 9 months. I knew that woman. I was her oldest child. And I said, I do. 3 weeks later. And so it was like I always was pouring. Can I say this? We all have a story.
Right.
Some people are ashamed to share their story. Some people are actually still living inside of their testimony, so they don't really have the story yet to be able to share.
Say that.
But the whole reason for the Bible, the existence of God is relationship, and the only way we can do any of that is by relating to one another.
Absolutely.
Are you hurting? Well, let me show you how I'm hurting too, and let's do it together.
Right.
Let's journey this thing together. So I don't want you to feel alone. And so that became my healing by helping other people, because when a young child or somebody in Dayton in the community would pass, they would call me, Miss Kristal, can you help my sister out, because she just buried a child, and I know you went through the exact same thing. And yes, I can, because maybe you haven't lost a child, and heavens forbid, we don't want you to.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? It's like we're in this club we don't want to be in. We didn't ask for it, we didn't sign up for it or any of it. And so here we are, we're in this club. Nobody wants to be a member of it, but we're in it. And so since we're in it, let's help each other.
Absolutely.
Let's talk.
Absolutely.
Let's get through it together if you can, So, I understand if a mother calls me and she just screams. She screamed to the top of her lung. I know what that scream mean, baby.
Sure enough.
I know exactly what that scream mean with no words. I know. You understand? I know that look in your eye. I got it. I still have that same look. And the thing is I'm just grateful, to be able, I hate it, having to go through it, and I hate to see new members in the club.
Absolutely.
That we didn't ask for.
Absolutely.
But I need them to be able to see what faith looks like. To see what healing looks like.
Yeah.
To see that it's okay that on this day I'm not okay. But you do know next week, man, that girl is, she's smiling now. It's okay, because then we naturally mimic each other.
Right.
You smile at somebody, they're gonna smile back, even if you don't know why they smile. Like, what's she smiling for? You just it's a contagious thing.
It is.
So I just I want that feeling, and and I want people to help me as much as I'm able to help them to see what faith really looks like. It's a difference than having faith. Now let's see. Now faith, it's not seen. It's not seen, but it is felt. It's felt.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
A club we don't want to be there. Oh, that
That
resonated with
is.
me.
That is.
Yeah.
And so, but Kristal, I have to go back and ask you this question because I'm sure that I'm probably I'm not the only one that thought about this. It's like, we all have grief, but it's like, how do I move beyond? What do I even do to even move beyond my daughter's not here, my child's not here? And you, like you said, you walk past, you see something that reminds you, a symbol that reminds you.
Call them triggers.
Yes,
triggers.
that reminds you of her. How have you been able to deal with those triggers?
Wow. I just keep going. Because I've come to the realization she's not coming back. There's no form of justice out there for the people who she was with. There's nothing like, right now we're watching what's going on in the world with
our justice system.
Our justice
Yes.
system and stuff.
Absolutely.
And people are like, oh, they're going to get paid and there's no amount of money.
Right.
There's no amount of money. Do you understand that if
telling
they
you.
pay this family $40 million, that boy is still never coming back?
Yeah.
Right.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Right.
And we still have to fix a person being able to jog down the street. Yes, you get what I
Yes,
mean.
yes,
And
yes.
so that's what keeps. I have to do my part, and the part is what God has given me. Continue to be that voice. Continue to stand firm in what it is that you know, because we were never meant to stay here.
Right.
So whether my daughter got in that car or that a young man jogged that day, he was leaving here. God made a decision.
Today's
They
your
were
day.
they were going to leave here.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, how do we get through here? Because remember, we're passing through. So all I'm doing is taking today, this November 27, 2021. I'm taking this time at almost 3:00. I'm taking that
I hear you.
time. I'm not worried about November 28th. It has not got here. And from my understanding, it has troubles of its own. So let me deal with what I can deal with today at 3 p.m. And I'm just going to keep going. And whatever comes, whatever phone calls I get, I'll deal with them when they get here. But my God, I'm not going to stress myself, in no grave. Because here's the thing. He'd come back. He'd crack the sky open. He'd come back and I worried for nothing. I don't want to do that. I want to do that. I just
That's
want to keep
good, baby.
going. I just want to keep going.
That is so good. It's so good. Because, and I think, Mama Daria, that was something you mentioned about how God uses our suffering to help others.
That's what it was for. A lot of times what we go through is never for us. But you don't see that till you get to the other side. I don't like it. I never will. And he's my daddy, so I tell him the stuff I don't like. I'm one of his children that you can always trust me to give you the truth. But he knows I'm like that. He knows I'm different. He told me to stop trying to fit in everywhere. You're not. You're not. What I got you doing, you're not going to fit in everywhere. I'm all right with that now. And I'm 70 years old. So Kristal learned it, and this is what God gave me. You got to go back and get your daughters and make sure they don't take as long, because when I was coming up, especially in the church, I'm not bad mouth, I'm just telling you the truth. A lot of times the older women only talked to me about what I didn't have on that was too short. I forgot you don't wear earrings this Sunday. You don't, it would never, good morning, baby. Well, that's my personality. And then one of the ladies, I never will forget, she said, well, you used to talk like that in the club. You don't talk no different in the church. I said, why would I? got the same tongue. It's just washed.
Wow.
You got to be ready for hurt, because when people see the change, it's like
Absolutely.
they're going to do something. I don't remember her like that. She used to cuss people out. I did. But you don't have to remind me what I did. I remember what I did.
Absolutely.
But I find that people, it hurts. That's a trigger. When people, I'm trying to do right, and you over here remember what I did wrong. It was my wrong. Why you remember my stuff?
Exactly.
It let me know people don't have a life, and they living through mine. So, but God said, there you go. You wasting time. You ain't got time for that. Get through 27th of November. Tomorrow's, that took me a while. She got it. My baby got it, but I was listening to her. I'm like, I'm learning. It took me a while though, but I'm here. It don't matter how long it takes you. Just get to this place. Just get to this place, because if not, the life that God has for you, that date that you're born, that dash, and that date that you die, the most important part is that dash.
What did you do?
I don't want to go, when I get home, I want to be empty. I'm gonna skate in there like I'm gonna fall down like third base home run. I made it. I'm all dirty. Lord, I'm empty. I've used everything you gave me.
Amen.
I used it all.
Absolutely.
I had to fight to get. I used it all.
I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
And I think too, grief and loss also shows us that, sometimes we think we have plenty of time. We got time to write that book. We got time to start that ministry, that website that God put on us to. But we don't. We don't know. It's back to that dash. We don't know. So we have to live as if
It's our last
we got
day.
that. Yeah, that we got that dash. We got that on our mind, on the front part of our minds, on a daily basis.
It has to mean something.
It does.
It has to mean something.
And I had to. That was something that I had to. I think God helped me through this process. Is that helping me to see, like, okay, now what you waiting on for that? Okay, and if He's giving you the idea to do it right, He's gonna give you the provision to get it done. And like you said, then if it's not Him speaking, because guess what?
You don't want to do it.
You ain't gonna want to do it.
Oh,
right?
that's you, God. I know that's you, because you ain't
Exactly.
gonna start no
I don't wanna
website.
do it.
I ain't trying to
You
start
don't
no
wanna do
Cammy
it.
Cares. I got you working you was working 2 jobs, wasn't you?
Yes,
You
ma'am.
trying to start Cammy Cares. I used to
don't
hear
wanna do
Facebook.
that.
I had her tag
Yes.
when she go on live. I know she got a word. And that's
Yes.
another thing you got to do as women that are I'm an elder now. I am one of the elders of the church, but it's because of the young women who talk to me and encourage me that I stay strong. You just don't
Absolutely.
get strong getting
No,
old.
you sure
You don't get
don't.
strong getting old. And
You
I think
sure
some
don't.
women especially feel, well, I'm so and so, and they need to respect me. No, you earned that.
You
it. You
earn
earn it.
respect.
And you got it.
Absolutely.
It's like you earned that badge in Girl Scouts. You had to
That's
sell so many
right.
bags of potato chips. You got to earn this.
That's
do.
right.
And that's when my daughters, when I hear what I heard today, when Kristal was reminding me, I don't remember all that. I was probably hurting them those times, but it didn't matter. I still got up that day.
Right.
And I said, okay, so I'm still here. And I didn't talk about, before I even married Todd, I tried to commit suicide when my first husband left me.
Wow.
And I thought I would never talk about that. But when you free, and you free indeed,
Yes, Lord.
it's liberty.
But you know what? What I find too is talking about it, sharing your story gives you freedom.
Over time. At
Over
first you're
time.
gonna be embarrassed. And
Well,
that's a natural feeling.
Absolutely.
It's somebody gonna always come up and take it the wrong way
Right,
too. You know,
right.
people, they run their mouth, but you get to a point where you need that. Because you say, I don't want to be like that.
That's right.
So come
That's
on,
right.
bring it to me. So I make sure I don't do that when somebody tell me,
Somebody's always
share
teaching
their
you.
heart.
Right.
I'm not going to come back. Well,
And
baby,
with
you
the-
should have done.
Done-
No,
that's
I did
right.
the best I could
That's right.
with what I had in my toolbox.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Some people don't know how to listen.
Empathy. They don't have empathy.
Exactly. That's
They
the
don't.
word.
They don't understand it. They don't have it, and they. So it's like, well, I didn't do it this way. It doesn't matter. You did
It
something.
doesn't,
So
right.
that's why I was expressing that with my husband. I was talking to some women, and they were saying they would rather get punched on than the verbal abuse.
Oh wow.
And
Wow.
I was saying I was the complete opposite. You can
verbal, but don't hit
you
me.
can verbal, but don't hit me. Because the verbal, I know who I am. See, that's
Right.
the thing. Folks don't know who they are. Because when you know who you are, it's like, oh, yeah. You know what I'm
doesn't
saying?
make-
It
I don't know who
doesn't
you're
matter.
talking about, but that ain't
Right.
me.
Yeah, and
Right.
it doesn't matter because
Right.
it just furthermore lets me know you don't know me.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So because
Exactly.
you don't know me, you know
Absolutely.
nothing
You're gonna make me
about
feel
You
bad.
can't make me feel
Absolutely.
Right.
because no one can make you feel anyway. You hadn't already felt anyway. So
Absolutely.
if someone is able to put you down to a certain degree, you already felt that. But I'm about building you up to see what it
Absolutely.
is that God says about you. Because guess what? He would never call me a whore.
Never. Never.
Even though he knew the things that I had
And
done.
I was whorish.
And
He wouldn't call
but
me
he
that,
would
though.
never
I'm
call
still
me
his
that.
child.
And
Right.
he knew
Right.
exactly
Right.
how it was. And God uses whore in the Bible a lot.
Sure
You know,
do.
when he's describing cities and, you know what I'm saying,
Absolutely.
people, a group of people and stuff, he uses it. However, he wouldn't call me that because he's always known me. He's always known, he's known everything about me. So even if I was what I was here, he knew my 2021.
Absolutely.
Gonna
That
look
ain't
totally
her.
different.
So
Yeah.
absolutely. So when he says, touch not my anointed, do my prophets no
Sure
harm,
enough.
he was talking about that when I was doing things I had no
Exactly.
business
Exactly.
doing. Because he
Absolutely.
knew
You were still his prophet.
that's
Yes.
it. I was
Yes.
still his own.
That's right.
His own. That's what
And
he labels
and
me
he was
as.
going to use
He already knew that. You didn't know.
exactly.
And you put your mouth on me.
Absolutely.
And then people
Absolutely.
have the audacity to tell you you're not going to be able to get as far as if you tell that story because people are not. Well, then
Receptive of
if
it.
they can accept me for the truth, that ain't where I'm trying to get.
Absolutely.
God said, I already got to, you don't want to go that path anyway. The path me and Kristal and you are traveling is narrow. There's not a lot of people
They don't
going
find
through.
it. They can't even find
They
it.
jumping over. They trying to go
Absolutely.
under. Going through life.
Oh, it's
But you ain't never alone. Sometimes he carries us. Sometimes we run ahead of him. Sometimes we try to get out of it, so we let him go first.
Oh,
I ain't trying to. He already know. He already know all that.
he already
And that's why
knows,
being a
for sure.
parent reminds us of what kind of Heavenly Father we have. Jesus, if you know anything about Jesus, he loved the ones that the world didn't love.
Absolutely.
Rejects.
Yes.
I never saw that other than in my family, how my people would accept anybody. My grandmother would feed anybody, drunks, prostitutes, and they don't leave her no money. And I didn't understand that. She said, keep living. Why do my kids tell me, Mom, you just like Mama Dillard? That's exactly what I wasn't trying to be. Because in my eye, as a person growing in faith, you were weak. See, I was a tough sister. You ain't going to hurt me. I'm going to hurt you first.
Absolutely.
And when I know you out for me, I'm going to get you first.
Yes.
That takes a lot of effort.
Yes, it does.
It's a lot of energy. Plus,
And you know what I found too is that when we do that, we're not allowing God to get in there.
It's not
and
God,
do
that's us.
And do what He wants done.
Right.
We like, oh, we got this guy.
Right.
We got
Which
this
is why
taken
we
care-
mess up and
Which
we're
is
always
why
tired.
it's not messed up. Why it's messed
always
up.
messed
and
up.
it takes longer.
It do.
It does.
Right.
It does.
Because you got to go back and repeat steps again.
Right. God said you didn't
Absolutely.
get it.
On
You
that
didn't get it.
path.
Right.
Right. You didn't get
Absolutely.
it, but I want to make sure you get it.
But
this
then in the
time.
Bible, we got witnesses. When Moses was leading the Israelites out of Egypt, it was an 11-day trip. It took 40 years.
40 years.
Wow.
13
Think about
miles away.
I'm telling you. And how many times God says, well, what you asked for was right there.
Right there. the whole
Right
time.
there.
Oh, I could talk about that, ladies, because y'all looking for a Boaz, and you look, it ain't in the club.
It's not in the club.
Boaz, and I ain't saying he in the church.
Ain't
No,
that the truth?
listen.
But he might just be the trash man picking up your trash.
Man, my
just
goodness.
never know.
Yeah,
Here.
he just might be the
just
salesperson in
never know.
Lowe's that you know. It's just so many things that cause us to have grief and loss. And we have got to learn to admit the part. Some of my life journey, I took away from it. God didn't do nothing. God didn't allow. I was in my sin. And I liked being in my sin. And a lot of Christians don't want to admit that.
Yes.
I don't like sin anymore. I don't have that taste. I don't have an appetite for sin. You know, so yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And you know, it is interesting that you were talking about how you just look at things differently. And that's one of the things that I think I have learned over the last 6 months is going through the grief and loss process is that sometimes in those dark places, we start to see things a little differently. And I think, and I kind of equate that to, I was doing a speech, and it was based on a Bible study called Through the Eyes of a Lion. And what I learned, and so I said, you know what, let me go back and think, why did they name this, Through the Eyes of a Lion? Well, when I went back and I looked it up and studied what it meant to be, what lion's eyes and everything. Well, it just blew me away. And so I'm going to write about it because it just blew me away. But a couple of things that blew me away was that their eyesight is 6 times better
Than humans.
And the other thing is that they pray at night. They don't pray in the day. They sleep at night and they pray in the day because their eyesight is better at night.
Right.
And a lot of times when we're going through our grieving process, we don't necessarily look at it that way. We see it as a dark time. But a lot of times it's God really, if we focus our minds and focus our eyes like the lion does. I mean, they zero in on their prey and they go after them. Well, if we do the same thing, just think what God can do in our lives if we operate from that point.
From His lens.
From His lens. And
That's
we're
what you're
like,
saying. Yeah.
and that's exactly. And when I started to look at that, it made me act different.
Oh yeah.
It made me be different because I was like, okay, God, I'm thinking, I don't really know where I'm going. I can't see my way.
Because you've never been here. You've never lost a brother. You've never lost a sister.
So I was like, I can't see my way through this.
Most times you can't see because you are the light. You're looking for a light, but you are the light.
That's right.
That's right.
He called you that.
That's right.
So you're looking out in dark places for a light
Ooh,
that
that's
He's called
good,
you to
baby.
be. You're in there, in that tunnel as the light. Guess what? You got
Yes.
people following you and you don't even
You don't
know
even
nothing
know.
about.
Yes.
I'm telling
You
you.
don't have any idea. And Mother Dillard said that about majority what we go through is for the benefit of somebody else.
It
Always
really
has
is.
been. But you got to remind yourself, Paul was smacked blind for 3 days. He didn't know it was going to be 3 days.
No.
But he did everything he was
In order
supposed
for
to
God
do
to use him.
in that dark place.
Sure
That's
did.
right.
And he was used, and look what he did
Yes.
after he was able to see. Because
Yes.
sometimes God don't want you to see, because if I saw my daughter was gonna die, I would never gone.
Right.
I would have never wanted to journey. I would have
Right.
never said yes. If she
Yes.
saw Mr. Stone that he was gonna leave, and then your ministry was gonna start, yeah, come on, no,
It would have never started.
no,
Yeah.
no, that cup that we say yes to,
Yep. Yep.
yeah.
And the word tells us that we have to be steadfast and movable, always abounding. Long suffering is part of the job description to be powerful on this earth as a child of God.
Absolutely.
Long suffering, you just can't get around it. You know, some jobs require bachelors, some require masters. The Lord just wants you to be surrendering.
Yeah.
Surrender all
Your
of
own,
it.
Your
Yeah.
own, your flesh.
Yeah. Your flesh dies daily. That's real talk.
That is.
I mean, to the
talk.
point where I want a Reese cup, and I know if I eat it, the sugar, I ain't had one in so long. You know, I'll suffer for it. No, I'm gonna do that. I want onions, and I know it's gonna mess up because I just
Yeah.
love that. That's the same way with our sin.
That's right.
We know what it's going. We know
We know
darn
what it's
well
gonna do.
we ain't supposed to be with that other person. They married, you married.
Yep.
You know you ain't supposed to be taking money while you got people trusting you with their money. But we do that. And what I'm looking at more than ever is that we cannot come out of a pandemic the same way we went in.
Absolutely.
No, we gotta have learned something.
Yes,
Well, and
did
that-
we learn anything
And that was
about grief and loss? Because it compounded.
It really did. It really did. And to me, that's what this whole study about the lion's eyes, what that meant to me, because that was a dark time for all of us. You know, but we could either look at that time as, oh Lord, we can't go anywhere, we can't do anything. But if we took the time to see it differently, we would be different. So when you say, oh, we can't come out of the pandemic being the same way. Well, we can if we're thinking the same way when we went in. And we didn't do anything different during that process, during that dark time. If we didn't look at the situation and say, what can I do differently? Or how could I use this time differently? I mean, for me, that's was something I had to do, because I'm like used to like, okay, I got my calendar and I got this and this and this.
We're
But
used to
God said-
grinding. We're used to being busy, busy.
But God
just,
said sit still.
time out.
Yes.
Time out.
I think
And-
that's why the churches were shut down too, to make a point, because what goes on in that building, it's ain't Vegas.
Right.
You got to get out there and you got to share that
Yeah,
word.
exactly.
Now you're not
We the
able.
church.
Absolutely. Now you're not able to go to that building.
Church everywhere now.
Right.
Yes.
So what are you doing at
yes,
that with that time?
yes.
And I can honestly say, I mean, I'm not saying it in you know, in a disrespectful way, but the pandemic, it helped me.
Me
in
too.
It
more
helped me
ways.
too.
Oh, I have to admit,
yes,
I have to
child.
admit
I
it.
advanced, and you know, it wasn't, you know, what was hard for me is to see we perish for lack of knowledge.
Yes.
Because I had the knowledge. This is not going to be the first pandemic.
Sure enough.
Because when he used that word, plagues, it has an S on the back.
Yes,
So this
exactly.
is not going to be the first one. This is just a snippet
Right.
of what's to
Because he's
come.
still in charge.
That's it.
And he's trying to let us know.
And he's not going to surrender his power, and everything he said. Remember, he said, I can't lie. So I've already written Revelation. So I studied Revelation and studied Isaiah, and all I see is what was already written.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Even if it was 500, 5,000,
That's
whatever,
right.
however
It's
many
back
years
to
it
that
was.
vision.
Right.
Hey, listen,
Write
it
the
was
vision,
written. There
make
it
it
is. Make
plain.
it plain. He said, but it won't delay.
Absolutely.
He said this won't delay. So, and it's just moving faster and faster, 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 faster.
Absolutely.
Are you ready?
Are you ready?